Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Connection Show. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So, I'm an energy healer, shamanic practitioner, transformation coach, and the spiritual head of the Transformation Center CT, which is located in Westport, Connecticut. At the center, we have a variety of things happening every month. We have workshops and trainings. We have satsang once a month, and that is Sanskrit for in the company of truth. We also have a shamanic clinic once a month, and that happens on the second Tuesday of each month. And it's an opportunity for you to sample what the shamanic healing is, because you can sign up for a 30-minute session. Yeah, and here's our website. So you can go on there and find out everything you need to know, all the events, any other information. And this is how to contact us with our email account, our email address, and phone number for texting or calling. So we'd love to see you at any of our events or workshops. We also, of course, have individual healing sessions and coaching sessions. So all of that is available to you right here. And some of it is virtual on Zoom, some of it is in person. We do a combination of things. So just check it all out when you get a chance. So the Spiritual Connection Show is all about connection. It's about us connecting with each other. It's also about you connecting more fully with your own spiritual self and learning from the guests that I have each week, connecting really strongly with them, because you'll find out, they all have a wonderful story to tell about their spiritual journey, what they're up to, anything that you can learn from them. This is a wonderful opportunity to do that. So thank you for being here tonight. And I'm very excited that my guest tonight is Krista Stanley. Welcome to the show, Krista.
Thank you, Katie. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy you were able to come. I just met Krista recently, and she's part of a holistic healing and practitioner group that we belong to. And so I was really excited because I got a little sample last week of what she does. So she's going to talk to you about that. So Dr. Stanley just completed a 40-year career in corporate business management. And she did this in order to develop her skills and her artistry as a spiritual medium, which is a skill she recognized from a young age. So I'm going to put up a slide with her contact info while I'm introducing her so you can see how to reach her. Yeah, so Krista is passionate about all things mystical, and she received a doctorate of philosophy in trance communication, which you're going to learn about in a few minutes. So she is a practicing evidential medium, a trance channel, a dream ambassador, and an all-around mystic dedicated to connecting with the spirit world and opening channels through which wisdom and grace can flow. As above, so below. Yeah, so that's what Krista is all about. And we're going to find out all the details in a minute. You know how I really like to start with the question, Krista, can you tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey thus far? Anything you want to share about that?
Well, it started when I was little. A lot of people say that. And I recently had a conversation with my 92-year-old mother. And I was trying to explain to her what it is that I am now doing. And when I said, well, it's kind of like I just receive information. And I said, it actually has a word. It's called Clearcognizance. And it's like I just get these little downloads of information. Things just drop in. And I just know them. It's not acquired knowledge. It's just a knowingness. And she looked at me and she said, well, but you've always done that. And I just thought, and she said, we never really knew what to make of it. We just thought it was, you had a wild imagination. And I just thought, oh my God, 62 years. This is the first time I've heard my mother say, oh, well, yes, we always knew you did that. So mine was really a journey of trying to figure out what it was that was happening to me. It was an experiential sort of thing. And the world that I grew up in didn't really support that sort of experience. I grew up in the Roman Catholic Church, so it was not something that was something that you would talk about. And so it was the process during my life of just slowly and cautiously becoming acclimated to this idea or this experience of communicating and receiving information from another realm. I don't like to say that it's like another dimension or another place. I don't think it's spatial. I think it's all one thing, and we have the ability as human beings to tune into it. It's like we have the radar already built into us. And so we get it in different ways. We get it through our dreams. That's one very accessible way. People experience synchronicities all the time, these confluences that seem completely random and don't really make sense, but they hold meaning. And serendipitous moments, a phone call and you know who's on the other end of the phone before picking it up. People talk about that kind of thing all the time. And so that used to happen to me all the time. And so eventually, I think I was having a crisis in my mid 40s because I wasn't really paying attention to it. I wasn't honoring it, I guess. And that's when I thought, you know what, I have to think about this more often, and I have to learn more about it. And that's when I started my studies. And I started with the Christian mystics because I thought, what's happening with them feels like what's happening with me. You know, it's just like they just would receive information and understanding. And so that's where I started. And it was a 12-year, master's doctorate course of studies. And then at the very end of my dissertation work, I had kind of an epic dream that made me understand the quantum dynamic of what was happening. I thought that was highly unusual. And I also just started somebody turned me on to mediums. I didn't know what a medium was. And so I started researching them because I thought, well, I should write about them. And I was captivated, and I thought, this is what I've been doing all the time, and I didn't know it. It has a name, it's a profession, and so then I really started studying it. And that's how I got into the mediumship portion of it.
That's so interesting, because you didn't start out with the goal of becoming a medium. It's just kind of, you just sort of.
No. And somebody said, listen, they're doing exactly what you're talking about in the dissertation on this, and which was on this trance communication. How do we communicate beyond beyond acquired knowledge? And because we use our 5 senses and our 6th sense actually to interpret the information that comes through. You can feel it in your body, you can feel it in your heart, you get goosebumps, there are all kinds of physical markers. And so that's when I started, and I just couldn't believe what I was witnessing. When you see somebody who really can tap into what I refer to as like a field of information, and it's like this void that's just filled with memory and knowledge and wisdom, and it just like it's like you're hooking in to start a flow, and the information just starts coming through. It's really quite incredible. And once I started practicing it, I was just constantly, I can't believe that this is actually happening. And then people, whoever mediums refer to the person you're working with as a sitter. And so when you'll check in with the sitter to make sure that the information that's coming through that they understand what it is. It resonates, they know who you're talking about or what you're talking about. So you check in regularly, and when a sitter says, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and you have no idea what you're talking about, it's just information coming through. It's really just amazing. I love doing it.
Yeah. No, it's very cool, and it's a wonderful way, in my experience, to help people, because one thing that I've come to understand is that any information that comes through you, for example, to us, is meant to be helpful.
Yes, that is the thing that you often encounter. People are, because we're so unaccustomed to this way of receiving information and this way of communicating, that we're just really suspect. And one of the ways I was trained was in something called evidential mediumship. And that's where the medium is giving hard evidence about who it is that's coming through, so that the sitter is absolutely certain. They know cause of death, they know approximate age of death, sometimes they get a name, they get the physique of the person, they'll get personality characteristics, all of which are identifiable. They can verify the information. It gets sketchy when you start moving into spirit guides or angelic realms or any kind of what I would refer to as higher frequency information that's not necessarily verifiable from what you know. And people are suspect of that. And as well they should, because they're the trade of mediumship over the 100 years. I think it was really started in the late 1800s. It's full of chicanery. People, it's a really hard skill. It's very difficult to do. And there are lots of ways to cheat. I hate to say it, but it's just amazing. And so when you actually encounter a medium or a mystic or a shaman or somebody who really has trained and learned how to let go of any need to be right or any of that, then the information is so clear and it is filled with grace. It has such beauty, and the assistance is so full of love. And that's where the difference is. And the sitter can feel that. They can feel the difference.
Yeah. I'm glad
I understand the fear of like, well, wait a second, what is this? And what are they saying? And then you'll see somebody kind of transition and they'll start to relax into the information because they can start to feel the validity of it. They're not just thinking about whether it's real or not. And it kind of, it sets off this alignment in themselves with their higher self, their higher power, which is directly connected. And that's where the transformation happens.
Yeah, that's really beautifully explained. I totally agree with how you're describing it. And I think it is about the love, that they feel that love coming through, and there's no information that's going to be in any way harmful or scary or anything like that. It's really putting us here on earth and giving us that loving way of communicating to assist us is the way I look at it. And what you said about not having I don't remember exactly what you said, but to me it's like not having an outcome in mind. Like whenever I work with my shamanic journey, I have no agenda, I have no outcome. It's just like whatever comes through for the person.
That to me is a really critical aspect of it, is that this is for the person who you're working with. It's for the sitter, and you have no idea, absolutely no understanding of what they might need. And so, and the sitter might not even have an understanding. Sometimes it's not clear. And part of the reason for doing the session is to gain some clarity. And so that I'll find it's interesting when you start to what's called blending. You kind of open yourself to the field. That's how I refer to it, so that the spirit, the frequency, can blend with you. And that's where the transfer of information happens. And often in the blending, that process of blending, you receive kind of very subtle information about how the information is to be delivered to the sitter. So it's almost as if they're completely tuned in to a need at an emotional level and a mental level. And so sometimes it can feel emphatic or cut and dry, facts and figures. And other times it's very soft and quieter, and with every person it's different. And I find that that's very interesting. That's kind of this wrapping around of spirit, kind of like these arms extending around the person to hold them in this space of, of imparting information and grace and love, and all of that comes through.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And do you get the sense that, when you open to the field and it's really whatever spirit comes through is who comes, and do you get the sense that they are there for a specific reason for the sitter?
I don't always have a sense of that, but through experience and over people saying that's exactly what I needed. Like, I didn't even know really what I wanted. I wanted my mother to come through, or, my dog just died and I really miss him, and I wanted, and then something else will happen in the session. It may be the dog comes through and then somebody else comes through. So oftentimes there can be a spirit that comes through who's bringing the one that they want to talk to. Like they can double up, and like they tag team, but so you just never know how it's going to go. And my process is just telling them what I'm seeing and feeling and sensing and understanding. It's not my job to put the narrative together, because I don't know what I'm getting. I'm just receiving information. But as I'm imparting it, I'll check in and say, do you understand this? You get this? Yeah. Because it's their job to put the narrative together and know how it fits in their life and know what they're being given and how they can use the information. It's often a very useful, helpful initiative.
Yeah, I've had that experience too. It's a wonderful, opportunity for people to get something. Sometimes they didn't know what they needed either, and so yeah.
And I think beyond the information, for me, this is the key. I mean, and I'm a bit real info, like having done a PhD. It's like, but to me, the critical thing is when somebody is able to feel it. Their internal radar, their internal GPS, their true north becomes clear to them. They can just sense it. And that to me is where everything starts. And then that's where that centering mechanism is where they can start evaluating their everyday decisions. They're opening up an aspect of themselves that's like a true north.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, because there's a possibility that they had not connected with their higher self prior to this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
well, and
Or
then
had inklings of it, or, it's crossed their path once or twice, or when they were a kid, or, oh yeah, that was a really unusual situation. Or it often at times happens to people at birth and at death. And when you are experiencing a friend who is dying, or the birth of a grandchild, or it's like there's some sort of, in that transition period, there something happens that causes you to remember. And for me, that's the whole thing about mediumship, is that consciousness continues when our body no longer supports our soul or our spirit, um, our higher self, however it's named. We continue our lives. We continue to evolve, and that evolution, that that consciousness, that beingness stays connected. It doesn't just go away. And so that to me is the real key to all of this, is it really opens people up to perhaps the fact that consciousness actually continues, and it's not just when our material body is done, everything is done, everything is lost, all memories are lost, all experience, all knowledge. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And so why would we do why that? So that's one of the reasons I guess I pursued it, because that just never made any sense. It made way more sense that we continued and that we worked for healing and for wholeness on our earth, and for our families and for our friends. And I like that idea.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do too. And the fact that we have this lifetime, and then if we didn't quite get everything we came here for, all the lessons, we didn't learn all of them, we can do it again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and we bring in the lessons from the last time, so we don't have to. I always think that I definitely have this sense that perhaps I was witchy in a past life, and I have a witchiness, and that it was perhaps even burned at the stake. My interest in mystics, like a real extreme interest, particularly in the Middle Ages, the 13th and 14th century mystics. And I thought, maybe I've been burned at the stake before, like me. And this time, in this lifetime, I always wonder, why have I been so cautious? And it's like, well, maybe you need to be cautious. And maybe the culture and the society that you found yourself in, Western culture, scientific understanding, no room for spirit there. Maybe you did need to be cautious and quiet and learn and remember what you knew. Maybe there's a point to that. So I think we also bring in the lessons that that we carry with us, in our evolution. Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree. But we don't always remember, and so sometimes it's good to connect with the past life through many opportunities.
Yeah.
That with different people. But no, I think it's great. You started talking a minute ago about the difference between like doing the mediumship with someone's ancestor or whatever who's passed away, and trance channeling. Is that the difference? Direct from an evolved spirit or master?
Yes. So the difference is, with the evidential mediumship, the medium is still very much a intermediary between the spirit and the sitter. So it's very much conversational. I'm here, I'm talking to you, I'm telling you what I'm seeing. I'm asking you if you understand the information. And so it's like I'm keeping a link. It's like I'm holding the center between, and with this conversation that's happening between you and the spirit. when I move into channeling situation, sometimes I can sense that there's just a higher frequency of information coming in. It's like I have to get really quiet, and I, Krista, have to move out of the way a little bit more. Whereas in the mediumship, I'm kind of front and center. With the channeling, I recede more. I allow myself to recede so that the spirit can speak more clearly and directly right through me. Some people, a lot of mediums don't like to do that. They feel uncomfortable receding to that level. I have no problem with that at all. Like I almost prefer that. I prefer to just completely get out of the way and just let the spirit kind of come through and discuss what they need to discuss, and you two have a conversation. So it kind of depends on the comfort level of the sitter as well.
Okay, so it can be like a two-way conversation then.
Absolutely, it is. They're having a conversation with spirit. And sometimes, because people are really reticent about that, they're like, well, can I talk? They're like, is this like, and so there'll be times when the spirit will say, do you have any questions? Which is a very direct thing. And that people will go, well, wait a minute, I didn't know I could have a question, and it's, well, yes, this is why we're here. Like, so as soon as people know that, then they can get really chatty, which is very funny, because then the whole tenor of the session will shift. But that's a really beautiful thing, actually.
Yeah, because it's great. And again, another wonderful opportunity. Yeah. Well, one thing I want to ask you before we wrap up, we have a couple of minutes left. You were telling me before about an online course that you're starting to
because I have a PhD, I can now teach. So I teach dream work. Active dream work is something that I studied with Robert Moss. And so that's a really accessible way of kind of starting to get in touch with how spirits communicates through our dreams. But the class I'm teaching is through Ubiquity University, which is an online university. And it's all over the world. And I think it's based in the Netherlands now. I think it started in California, now it's in the Netherlands. And it's called Buddha and the Black Madonna. And it's a 12-month course, but it's one class per month. And I'm teaching it with a gentleman, Kalen Rain, who was one of my advisors for my dissertation. And he is a monk and an earth shaman. And he does he's a dowser and a lot of energetics in artwork and in landscaping. And so he and I are teaching the class. He's doing the Buddha portion of it, and I'm doing the Black Madonna portion of it. So that'll be very interesting, because the Black Madonna is an iconic Christian figure, and but she's very kind of synchronous with the green Tara and with goddess energy that is very much imminent, very much here on the earth. And we are at a time that we very much need this goddess energy to be able to meld with the solar energy that we are so accustomed to. And this marriage between these two needs to become into being, into material form. So it should be a really great class. We're going to go into all of that stuff.
That sounds fascinating. So people can get that through your website.
It's on Ubiquity University, and it's a nano course.
All right. Well, I'm just going to put up your contact info real quick before we sign off.
Yeah, and anybody can contact me about that, and then I can send them information about it like that.
Well, we're out of time, but I'm so happy that we got to do this today, Krista.
Yes, thank you, Katie, so much. I love this. Is really great to be able to talk about what I do, and it's lovely to meet you and to have worked with you.
Yeah, same here. This was really, really interesting, and I know our viewers enjoyed it as well. So take care.
Okay, thank you very much.